everybody. Thank you for joining in with me on another broadcast of Monday Night Live, which is actually Real Talk with Frank and Vanessa. I just want to thank each and every person under the sound of my voice. As I am allowing Facebook to draw me in the audience, I'm going to go ahead and share this podcast out. I believe tonight is going to be a very, very, very impactful podcast on tonight. For those of you who are under the sound of my voice, if you can, be so nice um, and share the video out for me, like, love, tag, whatever you do to help the video get more reach. It will be greatly appreciated. I was off last week because of the holiday, so I hope and pray each and every one of you had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful holiday. As I am tagging people in, I'm going to share this podcast out just to let the people know that I am on tonight. Uh, Thank you all once again for joining in with us. Charlene, thank you so much for joining in with me on this podcast on tonight. Um, and to anybody else that's under the sound of my voice, I appreciate you so much for joining in. Like I said, I'm allowing Facebook to indicate to others that I am on tonight. I'm just gonna tag a few more people in so that I can go ahead and get this podcast started. I pray that each and every person under the sound of my voice enjoy their weekend. I pray that each and every person under the sound of my voice enjoyed their holiday. We had good weather, so that's always a plus. That's always a plus to have good weather. So, um, y'all, I had been studying about don't let your pain make you run. And what I have been studying about is I've been studying from it's about Abraham and Sarah. And that's from Genesis 16 about how Hagar ran because of the treatment she was getting. But as you all can see, the topic says, don't let your pain make you run. So I want you to just think about that for a little bit. I just want you to think about it for a little bit. That have you ever, Taz, thank you so much. He says, Amen, hit a few bumps in the road, but still following God, playing Amen. Thank you, Taz. That's right. Even though we hit a few bumps in the road, we still have to follow God's plan. Because no matter what we encounter in life, we still want to make sure that we follow the direction that God wants us to go into. So, once again, like I said, I thank each and every person under the sound of my voice for joining in with us. I'm trying to let just a few more people come on tonight so that you won't miss this message that I have for you on tonight, because I think this message is going to be, like I said, so impactful for people. Sometimes we want to run when situations and circumstances happen in our life. But isn't it funny how some of the places we find ourselves running from, isn't it ironic how God will send you right back to where you came from? Because sometimes you don't realize that there is a purpose. There is a purpose in everything that God is doing in our life. So we just want to be, like I said, just thank God for what He's doing in our life. Thank God what He allows each and every person to do. Just when He wake them up, whatever He calls you to do, we just thank God for it. So as I was looking at this story of Abraham and Sarah, at the time, Abraham and Sarah, I'm just going to give you a little breakdown. They had a slave. Well, yeah, they had a slave because that's what they called her. And Sarah at the time felt like she couldn't conceive a child. And as I read this story, sometimes you got to ask yourself the things that you think about yourself. Who told you that? And as I read this story, I had to question, like, but God never told her that. It never says that she went to God and God told her, no, Sarah, you wouldn't be able to conceive a child. So where did you ever come up with this ideal that you could not conceive a child? So as I was looking at this message and as I was looking at this story, um, Sarah decided that the slave that was living in their house, that she was fit to create a family for her and Abraham. Now, isn't it funny sometimes? And when I looked at this, I'm saying, Sarah, you doubt yourself. You doubt that you yourself can have a child, but then you turn around and you look at your slave and you feel like she's able to bear a child. But the question is, how can you doubt yourself? How can you doubt what God can do for you, but you have so much faith and so much confidence that God can do it for someone else? Y'all catch that? Sometimes we doubt ourselves as to what God can do for us. But then we'll turn around and we'll look at somebody else and we'll feel like God can do it for them. But we don't have enough faith to believe that if God does it for them, he'll also do it for me. So just a little brief thing. So Sarah, she tells her husband Abraham to that she feels like this would be a good idea if he goes and he has a child with the Egyptian slave. And Abraham asks her, is this what she wants to do? And she says, yeah. And Hagar, now think about it. Think about it. In this story, Hagar, which is the Egyptian slave, they never have a conversation with her. They never ask her what she thinks. They never communicate with her. They just make a plan for her. Now, y'all check this out. They make a plan for her that they never talk to her about. Thank you, Colleen, so much for joining in. That they never even talk to her about. And so as they make this plan for her, they decide her future. And as they decide her future, they carry out the plan that they decide that they want in their life, but the plan has to be done through somebody else. So I'm just kind of breaking the story down to you all. So I just want to read something to you before I go ahead and I get started. It says, pain has a way of making us want to run from people. It says relationships, responsibility, opportunities, and sometimes even from God. Y'all, I'm going to read that part again because I think that's key. It says, pain has a way of making us want to run from people, relationships, responsibilities, opportunities, and sometimes even from God. So pain can get to the point where it makes you just want to leave everything and everybody. And the last part, it says, even from God. It makes you want to separate from your creator who's able to bless you. It makes you, just because the pain, you decide that I want to just get away from everything. And sometimes you feel like I just want to separate from God. Jeffrey, thank you so much for joining in with us, holding it down with us over there on YouTube. I appreciate you so much. That you want to even separate from God. Now, let me tell you something. Pain has a way, and this is what it says. I'm going to read it just one more time because I think this is so key. Pain has a way of making us want to run from people, relationship, responsibility, opportunity, and sometimes even from God. Hagar found herself hurt, rejected, and alone in the wilderness. Bull, thank you so much for joining in. She thought running would solve her problem, but God met her in the middle of her pain and gave her direction. Y'all catch that. She thought if she ran, that would solve her problem. But isn't God so good that when you start running away from people, places, and things, even you try to even run from God, God will locate you and he will meet you in the middle of what you're going through and he will redirect your path. You know, the Bible tells us if we trust in the Lord with all our heart, lean not to our own understanding, acknowledge God in all his ways, he will direct our path. So what God did was when Hagar ran, he met her in the middle of her pain and gave her direction. So y'all, let's get into it. Okay. So I'm coming from Genesis 16. When you have time, because I'm not going to read the whole thing. When you have time, go back and read the story. It's a very, very good story. It's a very interesting story, but it's a very necessary story that tells us sometimes about ourselves and how God will find us and locate us right in the middle of pain. So I'm going to start here. So this is where I want to start at. It says, so I gave you all a breakdown. It says the angel of the Lord. So what happened was, you got Abraham and Sarah. Let me just break it down. So it says, now Sarah, Abram's wife, had bore him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So at this particular time, Sarah didn't have any kids, but she had a slave. Y'all check this out. So it says, so she said to her husband, Abram, the Lord has kept me from having children. Y'all check this out. So I didn't read in the Bible where God told Sarah she wouldn't have a child. I never seen where she went to God and God told her, you're not going to be able to bear a child. So what Sarah started to feel, because let me tell you how pain comes up. Sometimes pain comes up in our life because something that we want to happen right now does not happen right now. So we feel like it won't happen. Catch it. So she said, the Lord has kept me from having children, but that's not, see, sometimes the way you feel about a situation, you better go back and you better ask yourself, did God really say that? So when she tells Abraham, she says, go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her. Okay. So now she proposes this great idea. You know, sometimes y'all, pain will make us start to create scenarios for ourselves. And we don't realize that the scenario that we're creating is the scenario that might sometimes backfire on us. So what she does is she says, go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her. So Sarah gets this brilliant idea that I can't have a child. But what I can do is I can create me a family through my slave. But y'all catch this. How can you feel that Hagar can create you a family, but you don't have enough faith in yourself to feel like you can create your own family? Y'all catch that? So I start to look at this story, and as I looked at the story, I start to say, you got enough faith to believe that Hagar can create a family for you, but you don't have enough faith to believe that God will do the same thing that you want him to do within Hagar. He will do the same thing for you. So as I start to look at this story, I says, okay, first of all, Sarah, God never told you that you couldn't have a child. It's just not happening in your time. So sometimes when things don't happen in our time, you know, we lose patience. So because you no longer have patience to wait, you decide that you would create a family for yourself. But y'all, I had to ask this question. How do you know that this Egyptian slave that's in your house, How do you know that she can even conceive a child? Who told you that she can conceive a child? So now, y'all, I'm reading the story and I'm questioning. Y'all, sometimes you don't realize that you make a plan for yourself. And when the plan is not the plan that God planned for you, sometimes that plan will cause you pain. So, y'all, let me keep reading. So it says, go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her. So Sarah wants Hagar to build her a family. And she tells her husband, go sleep with Hagar so that we can create this family. Abraham agreed to what Sarah said. So after Abraham had been living in Canaan 10 years, Sarah, his wife, took her Egyptian slave and gives her to her husband to be his wife. So Sarah takes this thing a little bit further. She takes the slave and now she gives this slave to her husband so that this slave can become her husband's wife so that they can conceive a baby. Right? Okay, fine. So my thing was this. They never talked to Hagar. They never see how Hagar feel about this situation and this plan that they're putting together for her life. They never think about how Hagar feels. They make a plan and they follow through with it. Y'all, I'm going somewhere. It says, don't let your pain make you run. So they come up with this plan and they go through with it. Guess what? Now Abraham, he sleeps with Hagar and she conceives. Isn't it funny that you can believe that she can conceive and she does, but you don't have that same faith to believe that you can conceive and you will. And as I begin to look at this situation and this story alone, sometimes the plan that you have for somebody else, you don't realize you're making a plan for yourself, but that plan that you have for them is actually gonna bless them. Y'all, I'm going somewhere. So Hagar, she conceives this baby, right? So really, Sarah, what you did was you didn't realize Abraham had a covenant with God. And what you did was you turned around and you blessed your slave to do something that you felt you couldn't do. Okay, so it says when she knew she was pregnant. So check this out. Check this out. Hagar now, I don't know if Hagar felt like she had the upper hand or if Hagar was in pain. But Hagar now, it says when she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. So Hagar now starts to despise Sarah because now she's pregnant. So as I looked at this, I asked the question, I said, well, could Hagar be a little bit bitter because Hagar was never invited into the plan? Hagar was never asked if she was okay with what they was doing. Hagar was just forced to be a part of their plan. So what she does is she starts to despise her mistress. Then Sarah says to Abraham, you are responsible. Be careful when you make a plan. And when you make the plan and the plan goes through, now Sarah is starting to blame Abraham because the mistress is despising her now. So now she says, you are responsible for the wrong I'm suffering. Now she starts to point the finger at her husband and tell him, this is your fault that she's now treating me like this and I am suffering. She says, I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she is pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me. Now she's saying, may God start judging us. And as I looked at this story, I says, the key thing here, sometimes you better go to God before you try to override God's plan and you come up with your own plan, because sometimes your own plan will end up blessing someone else because of what you spoke over them. Y'all catch it? And I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but what I'm saying on tonight is be careful what you try to do that God never asked you to do. And so as I looked at this, right? So now Hagar despises Sarah because she's pregnant. So Sarah feels like now this slave that's now pregnant by my husband, now she is tormenting me. And she goes to her husband. She keeps complaining about this lady. Isn't it funny? Y'all just catch this. And I'm just talking about this story, but there's a message inside of this story. Don't disqualify for yourself for something that God never told you you couldn't do. But then turn around and look at somebody else and feel like they are qualified to do the same thing is that God promised you, but because it's not happening in your time, you decide that I'm going to change God's plan. It's no longer God's plan, it's my plan. So, y'all, I'm going somewhere. So, she tells him, she says, your slave is in your hands, Abraham. So now she's saying, your slave is in your hands. She says, do with her what you think is best. So now she's telling him, do whatever you want to do with her. No, wait. Hold on. Abraham tells her, do whatever you want, whatever you think is best with her. Then Sarah started to mistreat Hagar. So she fled from her. So now Sarah starts to mistreat Hagar. Now, isn't it funny that before Hagar conceived a child, Sarah was okay with Hagar being used to conceive and bring her to create her a family. Now that Hagar has did exactly what Sarah wanted, Sarah starts to mistreat her because she's now conceived a child and she feels like Hagar is now mistreating her. So my thing is, as I began to look at this story, I said, first of all, Sarah, Hagar never asked for any of this. This was all your plan. And because, see, y'all, I'm going somewhere. Sometimes people mistreating you, not realizing that what they spoke about you, God heard them and God gave them everything they asked for. They thought that it was going to be a bad thing, but God turned around and made it a good thing. And why I say sometimes y'all don't get mad when people turn around and look at you and start making a plan for you to do the things that they disqualified themselves to do. And so now she starts to mistreat this lady. And as she starts to mistreat her, Hagar starts to run. Y'all catch this. So I can kind of understand why Hagar starts to run. Because first of all, I didn't start this stuff. Sarah, this was your ideal. And because this was your ideal, God just gave you what you spoke. You know how they say there's so much power. You don't realize sometimes the things people are speaking over us, they become blessings for our lives. Thank God that Sarah, what she did was she spoke a blessing over Hagar, even though Hagar didn't have anything to do with it. Isn't it funny how people create scenarios for you, but God will turn around and bless you with the scenario that somebody else created, even though it doesn't feel good at the time. If you just watch God work, if you just allow God to work in your life, you'll see that every plan is not a bad plan. What's this? What is this? Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Oh my God. Y'all, hold on 1 second. I don't know where the picture went, but the picture went out. But anyway, I'm gonna keep talking. Just because people speak something over your life and you feel like it's pain, don't get upset. Y'all, hold on 1 second. I don't know what's that. y'all. Sorry about that. Sorry. We had technical difficulties here, but nevertheless, I'm gonna keep doing what I gotta do. Okay, so what I was saying is this. So Hagar, Hagar runs, right? And so I look at Hagar and I kind of can rock with Hagar on her running because first of all, you all create a plan for me. Y'all never include me in the plan. You want me to follow out your plan. See, sometimes people can have a vision and you will carry out the vision that they have thinking that the vision is bad because it's not your vision. But isn't it funny how God will allow you to to manifest somebody else's vision? Not even that it's their vision. What it was their vision that they spoke over your life. Y'all catch that? Isn't it funny how God will allow you? Somebody else will speak a vision about you, and God will manifest the vision for you. Y'all catch that? So Hagar begins to run, right? I kind of feel Hagar because first of all, you decided that you wanted me to create you a family. You never asked me if I was in agreement with this. You and your husband, y'all made a plan and y'all went through with it. Okay, fine. But now because I'm not reacting the way you want me to react to your plan, you decide that I'm mistreating you, and now you are saying, I want you go. Now you're saying I'm gonna mistreat you. Y'all, thank God. Sometimes they spoke some things over your life and didn't realize what they said over your life was going to become a blessing for your life. Y'all check this out. You know how sometimes people say, I wish they would go somewhere and get their life together. And they not saying it in a good way. They really saying it because I want to run you off. Because they really saying, sometimes they getting on my nerve. I wish they would just go somewhere and get their life together. But they don't realize that what they're saying about you, that God hears them. And what God turns around and do is God allows their words to bless your life. Y'all catch this. You go somewhere and don't come back for a while. And when you come back, you are in a better position than you was around them. That now that you have left, y'all, I'm going somewhere and I hope y'all catch it. They said go somewhere and get your life together. So what you do is you leave where you are. But when you come back, that very word that they wished and said, I wish you would, God turned around and the words that they spoke over your life, they thought they was running you away, but God says those very words are going to bless you. Y'all catch that? So Hagar, what she does is Hagar runs. Y'all catch this? Because now Hagar is tired of them. I done did what y'all said. Now y'all mistreat me. Hagar said, I just want to get out of here. So y'all catch this. Isn't it funny when people start to mistreat you because the words that they spoke about you starts to come to pass? Y'all catch that? So now we're going to mistreat you because what we said about you is now coming to pass. And because it's coming to pass, it don't look like it's going to curse you. It looks like it's about to bless you. And I have a problem with it because what I said about you, I didn't really mean it. See, sometimes we say things that we don't really mean, but the Bible tells you there's power in your words. So sometimes you saying negative, you saying positive things about a person verbally, but in your heart you feel negative, but God takes the positive and he applies it to their life. So y'all catch this. So it says, Hagar, she runs, right? And like I said, I kind of feel Hagar. I would have ran too. Look, I'm tired of y'all. Y'all done made a plan for my life. Y'all done made a decision for my life. Y'all didn't even ask me any questions. I went through with it. Now I went through with it, and now you feel like I'm hurting you when you already made a plan for me. So Hagar says, listen, I'm gone. Isn't it funny how sometimes the place you run from, God will make you run back to, because you don't realize that place that you're running from, God says, I'm going to bless you right there. So y'all catch this. So it says Hagar runs, right? And then it says the angel of the Lord finds Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is besides the road of Shur. And he says, Hagar, slave of Sarah, where have you come from and where are you going? Isn't it funny how you running now because you really fed up and you in so much pain. You in so much pain that you feel like, I just don't want to be bothered no more. I just don't want to be around this situation and circumstance. I just don't want to be around them anymore. So you run. And God sends an angel to meet you right in the midst of your pain. God sends an angel to meet you right in the midst of you being tired. God sends an angel to meet you and to talk to you right in the midst of you being frustrated. God sends an angel to meet you and talk to you right in the midst of you giving up. God sends an angel to meet you and talk to you right in the midst of you throwing in the towel. Isn't it funny how sometimes we run from our blessing because our blessing becomes pain, and God has to send an angel to meet you right there in the midst of everything that you're going to let you know that I got you. So he sends this angel and he says, where have you come from and where are you going? She says, I'm running. So she tells the angel, she says, I'm running from my mistress. She answered. So she tells the angel, look, I'm running. I'm out of there. Hagar at this moment, Hagar is tired. So it says, then the angel of the Lord tells her, go back to your mistress and submit to her. So now the angel tells her to go back. And the angel added, I will increase your descendants so much that they will too be numerous to count. So the angel tells her, and then it says, the angel of the Lord also said to her, you are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, and the Lord has heard of your misery. So now the angel tells her, listen, God knows all about you. He sees everything that's going on. He says, but what I want you to do is, he says, I want you to go back to where you came from. One, I want you to go back because that's where your protection is. That's number one. Because God sees that now you're pregnant, you're carrying this son, and your protection and everything you need is in Abraham's house. Because you may not realize it, but God had a covenant with Abraham. So I want you to go back where you came from. He also says, I'm going to bless you with the son, and his descendants are going to be so many that you can't count them. So y'all, as I begin to look at this story, I want to tell you, sometimes you have to go back to the place you came from. And the reason why I say that is because you don't realize that God says, I'm going to bless you right in the presence of the people who spoke the blessing over you. Because guess what? Abraham was going to become a father of many nations. So Sarah needed to go back because her child was going to be a descendant of Abraham. And so, y'all, I just wanted to encourage y'all, as I was reading this story, sometimes I understand we find ourselves in pain. And we want to run from pain. But sometimes God is going to redirect you back to the place that's going to bless you. Sometimes, as I began to look at this story and God began to say, God says, you don't realize, sometimes let them talk about you. Y'all catch that? Because what they think they doing, they think they talking about you, but everything they saying, God is taking it because God is going to bless you with what they're speaking about you. So I just want to encourage each and every person on tonight. Y'all keep trusting God. Sometimes you don't realize what they saying is not doing anything but blessing you. What they saying is not doing anything but pushing you closer to where God wants you to be. What they saying is not doing anything but moving you closer to the mark that God is calling you towards. You know, we run sometimes and we don't understand why God brings us back. God brings us back to a place so that we can be blessed in the place where the plan was put together. Y'all, if y'all get that. So I just encourage each and every person on tonight. Y'all keep going. Don't let your pain make you run. And I understand, as I looked at Hagar, I probably would have ran too. Because first of all, you all make a plan, y'all exclude me. So I probably feel some kind of way. But sometimes you got to put feelings to the side. Because the plan that they made for Hagar, it was to create them a family. Not realizing that they was finna create a major blessing in her life. And that's just what they did. They created a major blessing. Abraham and Sarah was supposed to be the first to conceive, but because Sarah decided, God, you're not doing it quick enough, she allowed Hagar to conceive. And so, y'all, I just want to, like I said, I just want to thank each and every one of you all for joining in with me on this podcast. I just found this story so interesting. And when you read the Bible and you read different stories in the Bible, God gives everybody a different revelation. And I just thought this one was so amazing because at first I looked at it as, okay, Sarah wanted a family. But I didn't look at what Sarah really did was this slave. You're a slave. But what she did was, and she probably didn't realize it either. She didn't do nothing but speak a lot of blessings over Hagar. Yeah, they put pressure on Hagar. Yes, they did put pressure on her because they started mistreating her. But y'all mistreating her, not knowing that God is going to bless her. Y'all putting pressure on her. See, sometimes a blessing will put pressure on you. So, like I said, I just want to thank each and every person on tonight. Monique, well, I'm sorry, y'all didn't even call y'all names on tonight. Moniqua, Jeffrey, Kelby, thank you so much for joining in. Zizi, I seen you on here. Bert, I seen you on here earlier. Charlene, I seen you on here earlier. Latanya, Taz, thank each and every one of y'all. And those of you all who joined in with me on YouTube, thank you so much for over there holding it down for us. It's a blessing to see each and every one of you all on here tonight. I just want to I just wanted to come on and give you this message that don't let your pain make you run. Because sometimes pain will make you run, but isn't it funny how God will redirect you right back where the pain started, only to bless you. So I just wanted to encourage you all on tonight. Y'all be encouraged. Like I said, don't let your pain make you run. Let them talk about you. The more some people talk about you, the more God is going to bless you. The more they speak about you and call your name, God is about to bless you. You know, sometimes we think they making a plan. See, you know, the Bible tells us everything that they meant for evil, God is about to turn it around for my good. And I don't even think they really meant this for evil. I honestly don't. I think Sarah really wanted a family, and she just decided that Hagar would be the best fit to make them a family. But once Hagar conceived, Sarah started to feel some kind of way. You know, I think she really just wanted a family, not knowing that her emotions at some point would start to get in the way of the plan that she wanted. And so y'all just thought that was a really good story. And as I was breaking it down and just reading through it, I just wanted to encourage you that sometimes you don't even realize what they saying about you is nothing but a blessing for you. The way, you know, even though, listen, they mistreated her, but God still blessed her. You mistreat somebody because of a plan that you put together. And God turns around and still bless them with the plan that you put together. So y'all, it just was very interesting to me, this story. It just was very interesting to me. So y'all, when y'all get time, y'all go back and y'all read it. It was Genesis 16 about Hagar and Ishmael. Um, yeah. So my husband sends you all his love. He said he'll be back. He'll be back sooner or later. Just taking a little bit break. He's just taking a little break, but he sends his love to each and every one of you all on here tonight. If y'all can. Oh, Tweety not here tonight, y'all. Tweety somewhere else. Tweety's a very busy little girl. Um, but I guess she'll be back next week. If y'all can just share the podcast out for me. As always, I love each and every one of you all. I appreciate each and every one of you all for joining in with me on this podcast. Um, I will be back, God's willing, next Monday, same time. Y'all meet me here if y'all can. Y'all, what we want to do is y'all just check on the people that normally are on here just to make sure they're okay. Just send them a little message, just saying, hope you're okay. Um, but you know what? God is still good. God is still good. God is still good. Like I said, Tweety is not here. She's a very busy little young lady. But she will be back next week. And like I said, God's willing, I'll be back on here Monday to bring you another message. You all enjoy the rest of your night and you be blessed. Thank you.